Hey guys, this is Mississippi Made Music coming at you with my first video. I just wanted to kind of give y'all a little information on what you can expect from this channel and kind of give y'all the demographic that I'm reaching out to. This is just going to kind of be an introduction to my channel and to me. I plan to show y'all what I'm wanting to teach throughout this course and kind of how I plan to structure it. I actually plan to teach this course for starting at beginners. I'm wanting to start at the beginning with basics like the names of keys, scales, just kind of like the fundamentals, the things that you need to know to start off immediately. But it's not going to be any of that boring stuff like you learn from classes and that you go for weeks and weeks working on scales and stuff like that. It's not going to be like that. I plan to just kind of lay that information out just to kind of pave the path and then let you guys find out how much practice you need to do on these things. Overall, I plan to just kind of give you guys the information that you need and let you run with it. I actually learned how to play from YouTube. Almost everything that I've learned has been off of YouTube. So the reason I'm starting this channel is to give you hope and to give you inspiration that yes, you can learn to play piano from YouTube. It can be difficult. I know it can because I've ran through all the roadblocks that I'm sure most of you have probably faced. And it can be very hard just specifically due to, number one, if you're not really sure where you're at in your piano learning process, where you need to start. If you're a beginner, some of the more basic videos that seem to be very boring and you don't get the fun out of it. So my plan is to teach this course to be fun and for you to enjoy learning to play piano. I feel like I can help you because most of the videos that I've seen, that I've watched to kind of teach me how to play piano has all been people that learned classical music or have gone to college specifically to be a music major. I can help you because I have learned from YouTube. If you need any help learning from YouTube, you're looking at a guy who has been through most of the same struggles that you've been through. I went from starting off just looking up songs, and then I took it to the next level, learning theory through YouTube. I plan to eventually get into stuff like theory, modal interchange, harmony, the different types of scales, and even get into the modes, Lydian, Mixolydian, Phrygian, Aeolian, Ionian. I want for you viewers to be able to start right at the beginning of my channel, and from there a step-by-step journey all the way through, just to get you to the point where you feel comfortable playing for your family, playing for friends, or depending on how much time you invest in it, to be able to make it where you can perform for people, whether it's a small gig, you want to play with a band or whatever, because I do have a little bit of experience performing. I plan to use that experience as an advantage to kind of help you guys get to the point where you feel the confidence to be able to play in front of people. I have a huge passion for music. If this sounds like a channel that you think you'd be interested in, please hit the subscribe button, hit the bell so you can get notifications when I post videos, and we can follow through this process together. If you have any questions, leave a comment in the comment section below, and I'll be glad to answer anything that you have. If you just want to know something about me, or if you have any questions about playing piano, check out my Instagram page. I'll have my tag posted in the corner of this video. Thank you for your time, guys. Now that all that boring stuff's out of the way, let's dig in to our first lesson. For today's lesson, there's only a couple of things I'd like to go over. I'm gonna start off with the basics. We're gonna go over some scales and kind of get to know what the keys are, and hopefully get you a little more comfortable with the overall setup of a piano keyboard. So this is a Yamaha P-125 digital piano. This is in my opinion, a little on the expensive side, especially for beginners. I paid right around $700 to get this digital piano, the stand, and the bench seat, and it also came with the music rest, and it came with a pedal. So all of it was kind of a group thing, but overall, this is what I'm going to be using to teach you, and this is also a good place to be once you're ready to perform. But before we go that far, I'm going to go ahead and ask that if y'all are excited and you're ready to start learning piano, to please hit that like button, subscribe, and hit the bell so you get a notification whenever I post all of the subsequent lessons. So let's jump into this. What we're going to start off with is in the key of C major. Right here is your center C. This key is pretty much what all of our other knowledge is based around. We are going to be exploring the C major scale, learning what notes are in it and how to form chords later on. But first off, to be able to recognize where a C is on your keyboard, you are going to want to find where there are two black keys. You see there are groups of 2 and groups of 3. Find where there are 2 black keys, and it's the key immediately to the left. There's your C. So, if this is where C is, beside these 2 blacks, here's another 2 black notes. That means this is also a C. That is an octave. So these 2 are both C's, 1 octave apart. An octave just means 8 keys. So 8 keys in a scale, which we will learn to build later, looks like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 is the octave. That's another C. So that's where it starts over. Now, just to go ahead and get some of the fear out of the way, because this can look very overwhelming, there are only 12 keys on a piano. So if you start here at C, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and then you're back at C again. So you will learn there's a pattern for forming a major scale. So let me give you an example of a C major scale. Alright, so as you can tell, C has only white notes. There are no black notes in the key of C major. This is kind of what people in the music world consider to be the basics for beginners, because it's the simplest key to play in, because you don't have to worry about any of the black notes. Now, eventually, we are going to get to where we can play with any of the keys on the keyboard, but starting off, we're going to start with just the C major scale. So, to start y'all off, I'm going to start us off with just kind of the general way of what they call fingering for the scale of C major. So you always start with your thumb when playing the C major scale, and you go index, middle, and you come thumb under. And you continue up the scale. Now, they like to number your fingers. Thumbs being 1, index is 2, middle fingers is 3, ring finger is 4, your pinkies are 5. So you say 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then right back down 4, 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1. So this is the proper way to play a C major scale. Now, what keys make up a C major scale? Well, if you start with the C, you just follow the alphabet. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and then you're C. So this just continues up and down the length of the keyboard, these groups of notes. So, some exercises that you can do, like I said, it's kind of boring at the beginning getting just the basics and the fundamentals in. But if you'll start off sitting at a keyboard and practice with your right hand, playing those scales, practice with your left hand, then once you kind of get familiar with the fingerings of that, then you can go into learning chords. Learning all of these. So you'll be able to play something that you think and other people think sounds good. So, but you're going to be able to do that because you know what you're playing, not just because you're lucky. Because it's very hard whenever there's this many keys presented to you to just get lucky and hit some notes that sound good. So let's dive in a little bit deeper. So in order to make a chord, or a triad as it's normally called, is you're going to start with the first note of the scale, C, if you're in C major. And then you're going to skip a note and skip a note again. This right here is your C major chord. Now, if you take this same shape and you move it up for every key that is in that scale, you will find the 7 chords of that key. So for instance, you have C major, you have D minor, E minor, F major, G major, A minor, B diminished, and you're back to C major. So these, if you're playing a song that is in the key of C, these chords are where you will get the chord progressions, of course, but also 90% of your melody notes are going to come from the keys in this scale. So, practice learning your shapes for chords. Now, it might be good for you to take a note if you want that every major scale is the same in terms of the major or minor or even diminished of the keys in that scale. So for instance, the 1 is major, the 2 is minor, the 3 is minor, the 4 is major, 5 is major, 6 is minor, 7 is diminished, and then you're back to your C major at the octave to start back at the beginning. So from here, we can say, okay, so if you want me to play the 1 chord, well, if you want to play the 1 chord, you go to the 1 in that scale and you play the chord that's associated with it. If you want to play the 4 chord, you go to the 4th one, 1, 2, 3, 4, and you play the chord that goes with it. So that is your F major, would be the 4th chord of the C major scale. And so on with the others. G would be 5, A minor would be 6, E minor is 3, D minor is 2, and so on. So now, how do we learn to make music out of these different chords? Well, it starts off at the beginning with really just people kind of telling you, this is going to sound good. This is going to be a good chord progression. So, for me to start off here for the basics, we're going to do what is called a 1, 5, 6, 4 progression. So what this is you're going to play the 1 chord, which is going to be a C major, the 5 chord, which is a G major, the 6 chord, which is an A minor, and then the 4th chord, which is an F. Now this is a very, very popular chord progression. There are actually many, many songs that are played entirely or very close to entirely out of this chord progression, just these 4 chords. So now, as you noticed, I didn't necessarily play the chords that I showed you a second ago. I didn't sit up here and play this, and then a G like that, and then an A minor like that, and then an F like that. I did these other weird shapes that we haven't seen. Well, these other shapes that I'm doing with my right hand are called inversions. So an inversion of a chord is quite simple. You have multiple ways that you can play one chord. So for instance, this C major right here, we call this root position. Root position means that the key that the chord is named after, in this case C major, that the C is in the base of the chord. Now, every chord has at least 2 inversions. So for instance, the first inversion of a C major would be to move this C up an octave to the next C. So you still have your E and G, but now you have a C up here. So this is a C major chord in first inversion. The same goes for second inversion. If you move the E up an octave, then you get this. G, C, E, which would be a C major chord in second inversion. Now if you move the G up an octave, you're back to root position. You're just an octave higher now. So that's kind of how your inversions work. The reason that there are inversions is to make the chords and the melody and the bass all kind of mesh together better. For instance, if I play this, that sounds a little bit choppier and doesn't sound quite as smooth as this. You see how that sounds a little bit smoother, it works together better. Well, that's because of the clever use of inversions. Now, a lot of people get to this point and they see this and they're like, oh my goodness, like, how do you ever know when to use a specific inversion over another? And that's easy. The typical rule of thumb that you use is you want your left and right hands to be as close together as you can. Now, in some instances, you will want to have a bass note that's really deep, and you might want a high, so that spreads your hands apart, obviously. So that has its place. But in general, whenever you're playing in the middle of music, whenever you're really wanting to draw the people in, you want your hands to stay close together. Now, another thing that goes kind of like with your hands being together. Generally, your right hand is going to be playing notes that are closer together than your left hand. Your left hand is going to be playing more spread out notes. The reason for this is what's called undertones. Undertones mean that whenever you play a deep note on the keyboard, like this C for instance, that C is so deep and powerful that the vibrations actually make other strings in your piano vibrate. Well, because it does that, if you start playing a bunch of chords all close together down here, it sounds really muddy. Listen to this. This sounds muddy compared to, or. So as you get higher and the frequencies of vibration are weaker and smaller, they don't travel as far, plus a lot of the notes that you hear from the undertones are actually out of the range of human hearing. So you don't have to worry about undertones out past there. So generally, whenever you're playing chords, you're going to want to play what's called a shell chord in the left hand, and you can play just a basic triad, or you can play inversions. Now, that's most of all that I'm wanting to talk to you about today. Thank you for watching this far, and I hope that this has helped you get just a little bit of an idea of what piano's like. I'm going to go into this stuff a lot more into detail in future videos. Obviously, as these videos progress, I'm going to be slowly grabbing ideas from the videos before. But the main gist of the lesson today is I want for you to know the C major scale, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, all of those notes, and then just how to form your basic chords for those. So that being your C major, your D minor, your E minor, F major, G major, A minor, B diminished, and back to C major. So if you can learn that, that is great. That's where I want you to be. Now, if you want to go ahead and start trying to practice on your inversions, being able to play C in all three different inversions, that's great. If you're wanting to learn these other chords in their inversions, it works the same way. All of them work the same way. So you can take what I've given you and you can go a little over and above if you're wanting to get into inversions. But for the most part, just work on your scale and work on your basic triads. And next video we will get into kind of forming some chord progressions and how to pick out some songs. Well, that pretty much wraps up today's video, guys. Thanks for tuning in to Mississippi Made Music. I hope that today's video has helped start your piano playing process. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. Also, if you like today's video, please subscribe and hit the like button so you can be notified whenever I post subsequent videos. Thanks for your time and have a great day.